The twin sons of New Haven beat down on the dusty plains as Eli Ward stood by the fence, squinting toward the landing pad. The wind carried the dry smell of sand and steel. He had waited 3 long months for this day, the day his mail-order wife from Earth was supposed to arrive. A woman he had never met, but whose letters had warmed the cold nights on this lonely planet. He brushed off his old hat, heart pounding. He'd built this ranch alone after the war, fought off bandits, fixed machines with his bare hands. But what scared him most now wasn't gunfire. It was meeting someone who might finally see how broken he was inside. The ship roared through the sky like thunder. The transport was smaller than he expected, more like a courier vessel than a passenger craft. Its landing thrusters kicked up waves of red dust as it settled down. Eli straightened his jacket, holding the small bouquet of wild desert flowers he'd picked that morning. The ramp hissed open. A tall figure stepped out, not a shy woman in a simple dress, but a stranger wrapped in a tattered black cloak, her head low under a wide-brimmed hat. When the wind lifted the cloth, Eli saw the shimmer of silver skin and eyes like molten metal. His heart skipped. She wasn't human. The figure's hand rested on a gun, an old-style plasma revolver, the kind used by frontier gunslingers. Eli froze where he stood. You ain't Marla from Earth, are you?" he asked, voice shaking. The stranger lifted her head slowly. Her voice was calm but cold. "No, but I was on her ship." She took a step forward, boots crunching on gravel. "Are you Eli Ward?" He nodded slowly. She exhaled, a sound of both relief and exhaustion. "Then I need your help." Before Eli could reply, the port alarms began to scream. Across the landing zone, a group of armored soldiers poured out of another ship, shouting in a foreign tongue. A voice echoed over the loudspeaker. "By order of the Serath Dominion, surrender the fugitive Vara Trell." The alien woman's silver eyes met his. "If you hand me over," she said quietly, "you'll die first." Eli's hand trembled. "Lady, I don't even know who you are." "Good," she said, lifting her gun. "Keep it that way." Blaster fire ripped through the air. She spun, firing back with deadly precision, each shot a flash of blue light that dropped a soldier instantly. Eli ducked behind a cargo crate, the bouquet falling from his hand. He watched her move like liquid lightning, faster than any human could follow. When the smoke cleared, the soldiers were down, but more were coming. Dropships darkened the horizon. The alien ran to him, grabbed his arm. "You got a ranch in the desert, yes? A place far from here?" Eli hesitated. "About 10 miles west, and then take me there, and why should I?" "Because if they find me," she said, voice low, "they'll burn this colony to ash. And if I die here, they'll think you helped me. Either way, you're already in it." The way she said it made his blood run cold. Eli looked back at the port. Soldiers were spreading out, scanning heat signatures. He thought of Marla, the woman who was supposed to come, and how everything he planned just shattered in one heartbeat. He swallowed hard and nodded. "Fine, but you tell me who you really are when we're safe." The alien's lips curved slightly, a ghost of a smile. "Deal." They fled into the wasteland on his hover wagon, engines whining under the twin suns. Dust chased them like a storm. The woman, Vara, she finally whispered, sat silent beside him, cloak flapping in the hot wind. When night fell, Eli stopped at a ridge overlooking his ranch. The sky turned deep blue, stars scattered across it. Vara stared at them like someone who hadn't seen freedom in years. Eli looked at her carefully. "You said you were on that ship. What happened to my wife?" She didn't meet his eyes. "She never made it. I took her seat." The silence was heavy. "Why?" he asked quietly. Vara's silver eyes glowed faintly. "Because your people still believe in second chances." "Mine don't." Before Eli could speak again, a red light flashed across the horizon. Search drones sweeping the desert. Vara stood, pulling her gun, her expression sharp. "They found us." Eli's heart pounded. He didn't know who this alien outlaw really was or what kind of war she'd brought to his doorstep. But one thing was clear. The quiet rancher's life he once knew had just ended. And somewhere deep inside, something told him this was only the beginning. The night wind howled across the desert as Eli and Vara reached the safety of his ranch. The land stretched endless in every direction, silent except for the rustle of sand. The ranch house was small, old wooden panels, metal patches, and solar lamps that flickered weakly. It wasn't much, but it was home. Eli jumped off the hover wagon, breathing hard. Farah followed. Every move sharp and alert, her silver eyes scanning the shadows. She looked ready to shoot the moon if it moved wrong. Inside, Eli said, unlocking the door. Farah stepped in carefully, gun still in her hand. The room smelled of dust, oil, and coffee. A small picture hung on the wall, a smiling woman holding a baby. Farah's gaze lingered on it. Your wife? She asked. Eli nodded slowly. Died 4 years ago. Fever. He hesitated, looking at her. You can lower that gun now. No one's going to shoot you here. Farah didn't answer. She placed the weapon on the table but didn't move far from it. Her cloak was torn, revealing armor underneath. Sleek black metal with faint glowing lines. It looked old and battle-worn. She sat down silently and Eli poured 2 cups of coffee. He slid one toward her. You said you were on that ship. How did you end up in my wife's place? Farah lifted the cup, sniffed it, then took a careful sip. Because I had nowhere else to go. Eli frowned. That's not an answer. Her eyes flicked up to meet his. You wouldn't understand. Try me, she sighed, staring into the dark coffee. I was once part of the Sarath Dominion's elite guard. The best shot in the outer sectors. They called me Varatrell, the Silver Reaper. I served under a warlord named Kron. He ruled through fear. He sent me to wipe out rebels, colonists, anyone who defied him. But one day I saw something I wasn't supposed to. She paused. The only sound was the ticking of an old clock. I saw a human woman shielding her child while soldiers burned their farm. She wasn't armed. She just stood there. And when they shot her, she didn't scream. She sang to her child until she fell. Vera's voice cracked slightly. I couldn't pull the trigger after that. I turned my gun on my own squad instead. Eli stared at her. You turned against your people? Yes, she said softly. And now every bounty hunter in the sector wants my head. Eli rubbed his chin, trying to take it all in. So you hijacked the transport? Farah nodded. I needed a place to hide. The ship was scheduled to land here, and the passenger's name was Marla Ward. I took her seat before they caught me. I didn't know she was your bride. Her words hung heavy in the room. Eli looked away, eyes hard. She didn't deserve that. Farah lowered her gaze. No one does. Outside, the sound of engines broke the silence, and faint but real. Eli moved to the window. In the distance, 2 hovering lights cut through the darkness. Search drones, Farah whispered, instantly alert. They've found the trail. Eli cursed under his breath. You led them here. Then I'll lead them away, Farah said, reaching for her gun. He grabbed her wrist. Hold on, this is my land. I can't let them burn it down. Farah met his eyes. If you stay, they'll kill you too. Eli's jaw tightened. I've been shot at before. A soft sound made them turn. The old barn door creaked open. A small shape stepped out. Eli's loyal ranch bot, a round, rusty machine with blinking eyes. It beeped nervously. Farah smiled faintly. It's scared, Eli grinned. Ain't we all? He moved toward a wall panel and flipped open a switchboard. If we reroute the power grid, we can overload the sensors. That'll blind the drones. Farah helped him quickly, her hands moving faster than any mechanics. You're good, Eli said, surprised. I built warships, she said simply. Fixing a ranch fence is easy. Moments later, the sky flashed and the drone's lights blinked, then went out. Farah smirked. They'll think the trail ends here. Eli nodded. Good, maybe they'll... Before he could finish, the comm unit crackled. A deep, metallic voice echoed, Human rancher Eli Ward, you are harboring a Sarath fugitive. Surrender her, or we will burn your property and erase your name from the colonies. Eli looked at Farah. She stood motionless, gun in hand, eyes cold. I told you, she whispered. You're already part of this. Eli took a long breath. Guess I am. He opened a hidden locker and pulled out an old human rifle, the kind used in the early frontier wars. You stay low. I'll deal with them. Farah's gaze softened for the first time. You'd fight for someone like me? Eli chambered around, his expression firm. You came in my wife's place. That makes you my problem. A small smile touched her lips. Then let's make it their problem. Outside, engines roared closer. The desert night turned electric with danger. Inside that old ranch, a human and an alien outlaw stood side by side. 2 souls from different worlds. Bound by fate and fire, neither knew it yet. But tonight would mark the beginning of a legend whispered across stars. the story of the rancher who defied an empire for a woman not of his kind. The morning came too soon. The red sun rose behind the dunes, painting the sky with fire. Eli stood by the window, rifle in hand, watching the horizon. The air was too still. No birds, no wind. Only silence, the kind that comes before death. Vara stood beside him, adjusting the power cell on her revolver. Her wounds from the night before were still raw, but she moved like someone who'd been running her whole life. She looked out at the plains and muttered, "They'll be here before noon." Eli gave a small nod. "You sure they'll come?" "They don't stop," she replied softly. "Once they mark you, they hunt until one of you is gone." He sighed and rubbed his temples. "You could leave. Take one of the bikes right east. You'd buy me some peace." Her silver eyes turned toward him. "Peace isn't bought, human. It's fought for." Before he could respond, a low rumble rolled through the air. Dust clouds rose on the far ridge. Hovercrafts. Eli's stomach tightened. He could see glints of armor under the sun. "They're early," Vera whispered. Eli opened a control panel near the door and flicked switches. Across the ranch, old machines came to life. Automated drones, harvest units, even water cannons now turned into defense turrets. "Let's make them work for it," he said. Minutes later, the bounty hunters arrived, 8 to 6 in total. 3 were humanoid, but their armor bore the red mark of the Sereth. The others were worse, reptilian beasts with plasma lances strapped to their arms. Their leader, a tall alien with a black visor, called out over a speaker, "Human, surrender the fugitive Varatrell." "You have 10 seconds. Eli stepped out onto the porch, rifle at his side. "You'll have to come take her." The leader laughed. "Then you'll die with her." The sky exploded. Plasma bolts tore across the ranch, striking the fences and barns. Fire spread fast, smoke curling upward like black snakes. Eli ducked behind the water trough, firing back. His bullet hit one of the humanoid hunters square in the chest. Armor cracked, the alien fell. Vera moved like lightning. Her revolver barked blue fire. 2 bounty hunters dropped before they could even raise their weapons. But one of the beasts leaped through the smoke, tackling her into the dirt. Eli ran forward, shouting her name. He fired, hitting the creature in the back, but it didn't fall. It roared and swung its blade at him. Eli barely dodged, the blade cutting through his sleeve. Then Vera rolled beneath the beast, jammed her plasma revolver under its jaw, and fired. The blast lit the sky. The creature fell limp, smoke rising from its armor. Eli pulled her up. "You okay?" She wiped blood from her mouth. "I've been worse." Before they could catch their breath, the leader charged forward, wielding a shock staff. The weapon crackled with blue electricity. Eli fired, missed. The hunter swung, hitting Eli in the chest. He fell hard, gasping. Vera screamed, a raw alien sound that shook the air. She drew a hidden blade from her armor and charged. Sparks flew as their weapons clashed, blue light flashing like thunder. The leader struck her across the face, but she didn't fall. She spun, kicked his legs out, and fired her last round straight through his visor. The leader fell. The ranch went quiet again. Smoke drifted through the ruins. Eli pushed himself up, pain burning his ribs. Vara stood beside him, breathing heavily, revolver smoking. Around them, 5 bounty hunters lay dead. But victory brought no relief. A faint beeping caught her attention. Vara knelt and turned over the leader's body. A small holographic transmitter blinked in his chest plate. A projection flickered to life. The cold face of a Serath warlord, his crimson armor gleaming. His voice echoed deep and cruel. "So the Silver Reaper hides with a human now." How poetic. "Stay where you are, Varatrell. We're coming for you, and the man foolish enough to stand beside you." The hologram vanished. Eli and Vara stood in silence. The flames from the barns painted their faces in orange light. "They know your name," Eli said quietly. Vera clenched her jaw. "They shouldn't. That means they've tapped into the colony network." "So they'll come here again?" She nodded. "With more ships. More fire." Eli looked at the smoking ruins of his ranch. "This was supposed to be a quiet life," he muttered. "Now it's a war zone." Vera holstered her gun. "Then let's move before nightfall. There's a cave north of here in the canyon. We can hide until we plan our next move." Eli stared at her for a long moment. "You're not running anymore, are you?" Her silver eyes met his. "Not if you're standing beside me." As the suns dipped below the horizon, they packed supplies and rode into the desert, a rancher and a fugitive outlaw, 2 shadows against the burning sky. Neither spoke for a long time, but both felt it, the bond forged in fire and blood, growing stronger with every mile. The hunters had come for her. Now they'd come for both. And Eli Ward, once just a quiet rancher, was ready to show the galaxy what it meant to stand with a human. The night was cold in the canyon, a strange chill under the twin moons. Eli and Vara huddled near a small fire, hidden deep in the rocks where scanners couldn't see. The flames danced on the cave walls, turning her silver skin into soft gold. Eli sat across from her, patching a burn on his arm. Vara watched him work, her sharp eyes softened for once. Outside, the desert wind howled through the stones like distant voices. "You should rest," she said quietly. He shook his head. "Not until I know they're gone." Vara tilted her head. "You fight like someone who's lost too much already." Eli smiled weakly. "You don't live out here unless you've lost something first." For a while, neither spoke. The fire popped and cracked, sending sparks upward like small stars. Finally, Eli broke the silence. "Why me, Vara? Why choose my ship, my ranch? You could have hidden anywhere." Her eyes flickered in the firelight. "Because I read the cargo manifest before I boarded. It listed your name, Eli Ward, human, former colonist of Delta 9. I remembered that name from the reports." He frowned. "Reports?" "Yes," she said softly. "Your unit fought the Serath during the Outer Wars. You defended a colony with nothing but farming tools and grit. You refused to surrender even when surrounded. My kind respected that, even the ones ordered to kill you." Eli leaned back, staring into the flames. "So you came looking for a hero?" Her voice was calm but full of weight. "No, I came looking for someone who wouldn't run." He met her gaze. "And did you find him?" She smiled faintly. "I think so." For the first time since she arrived, the fear between them began to fade. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It felt like understanding. Vara removed her glove, revealing a long scar running down her hand. The skin shimmered faintly, marked with strange lines. Alien code burned into flesh. "What's that?" Eli asked softly. "My brand," she said. "The mark of the Dominion. Every soldier carries it. It's how they track us and how they punish traitors." She pulled a small tool from her belt, a thin needle glowing red at the tip. "I need to burn it out or they'll find me again." Eli stared at her. "That's insane. You'll lose your hand." She met his eyes, steady and calm. "Then I'll lose it fighting, not running." Before he could stop her, she pressed the glowing needle to her palm. The smell of burning metal and flesh filled the air. She gritted her teeth but didn't scream. Eli rushed to grab her arm, but she shook her head. "Don't," she whispered. "If they find me, you die too." He took a deep breath, grabbed a cloth, and wrapped her hand tightly when she was done. "You're too stubborn for your own good." Her lips curved slightly. "That makes two of us." They both laughed softly, a brief, quiet sound that cut through the heavy night. Hours passed. Vara leaned back against the cave wall, eyelids heavy. "Eli," she murmured, "your people, they still believe in love, don't they?" He looked surprised. "What kind of question is that?" "In my world," she said, voice fading, "love is weakness. It distracts soldiers. It breaks order. We are not allowed to feel it." Eli stared at her for a long moment. "Then your world's missing something real." She smiled faintly, eyes closing. "Maybe that's why I left." Eli sat there for a while, listening to her slow breathing. Outside, the wind carried the smell of rain, rare on New Haven. He thought of everything he'd lost. His wife, his quiet life, and of the strange silver-eyed outlaw sleeping by his fire. When dawn came, the rain began to fall, soft and steady. Vara woke first, her hair damp, her burned hand still bandaged. She looked at him with something new in her eyes. Not distrust, not fear, but something deeper. "Eli," she said, "if they find us again, you should run." He chuckled softly. "You keep saying that and I keep not listening." Her lips twitched. "You're impossible." "Yeah," he said, standing up and tightening his jacket. "That's what everyone says right before I save them." She shook her head, smiling. "Don't make promises you can't keep, human." He met her gaze, firm and calm. "I don't break the ones I do." As the rain washed the dust from the rocks, they packed their things and prepared to move again. The bond forged between them wasn't spoken, but it was there. Unbreakable, built in fire, pain, and trust. The galaxy didn't know it yet, But something new had been born that night in the canyon. Something stronger than fear, stronger than war. And as they rode toward the horizon side by side beneath the falling rain, even the desert seemed to whisper a truth neither could deny. Two lost souls had found each other, and now they weren't running anymore. The first sign of danger came with the wind. It carried the faint metallic hum of engines like thunder from far away. Eli froze mid-step, scanning the sky. Vara's eyes narrowed, her hand drifting toward her gun. "They've found us," she whispered. They were standing on a ridge above his ranch, or what was left of it. From this height, Eli could see smoke curling from the broken barns, scorched earth, and twisted fences. He had spent years building that place, piece by piece. Now it looked like a graveyard. "They came back to finish what they started," Eli muttered bitterly. Vara looked at him. "Then we finish it first." They moved fast. Eli rerouted the old solar batteries buried beneath the fields. Vara hacked into the remaining drones, converting them into traps. Every minute mattered. The hum in the air grew louder, the sound of dropships descending. By sunset, the horizon burned red with light from incoming ships. 3 this time, each carrying soldiers in black Serath armor. As the dropships lowered, sand blew across the field like a storm of sparks. Vara stood at the gate, revolver spinning in her hand, cloak snapping in the wind. Eli stood beside her, rifle slung over his shoulder. "You know," he said with a wry smile, "this isn't exactly how I pictured meeting my wife." Vara smirked. "You sure you want to keep that joke running, human?" "Gives me courage," he replied. Then the sky opened with fire. Plasma bolts rained down, lighting up the ranch in blinding blue. The ground shook. Drones screamed overhead, scanning for life. Eli shouted, "Now!" Vara hit the detonator. The ground erupted. Buried power cells exploded in sequence, sending waves of fire through the sand. The first wave of Serath soldiers vanished in the blast. The second wave charged through the smoke, firing wildly. Eli ducked behind the fence, shooting back. Vara moved beside him, firing in perfect rhythm. Every shot a death mark. The air filled with dust, noise, and light. A plasma bolt struck near Eli, knocking him down. Vara turned, dragged him to cover. "You okay?" He coughed, blood on his lip. "Never better. You humans lie terribly. Part of the charm," he said with a grin. She rolled her eyes, reloading her gun. "I'm starting to see why your species wins wars." The Serath soldiers regrouped, advancing with shields. Eli threw a switch, triggering his next trap. The irrigation pipes burst, flooding the field. When the enemy's energy weapons hit the water, arcs of lightning flashed across the ground. Dozens fell, screaming. Vara looked at him, impressed. "You used water as a conductor?" He shrugged. "Old ranch trick. You're insane." "Maybe," he said. "But it works." For hours they fought. The sun set and the battle turned into chaos under the twin moons. Smoke rose into the night sky like a signal fire. Every time Vara fell back, Eli covered her. Every time he ran low, she reloaded his rifle without a word. By midnight, only one ship remained, larger, armored, and glowing red. Its ramp opened and out stepped a towering figure in silver-black armor, Warlord Kran himself. Vara's breath caught. "No?" Eli glanced at her. "Friend of yours?" Her jaw tightened. "The one I betrayed," Kran's voice boomed across the ranch. "Vara Trell, you thought you could hide behind a human? How pitiful. Step forward and I'll let him die quickly." Vara stepped out from cover, gun in hand. "You'll have to kill me first." Kran smiled behind his mask. "That was always the plan." Eli grabbed her wrist. "Don't, you can't take him alone." She looked at him, eyes fierce. "Then stay alive. I need someone to rebuild the ranch." Before he could stop her, she ran forward, dodging plasma fire. Kran's soldiers formed a ring around her. Eli's heart pounded. He couldn't just watch. He sprinted out, firing at the ring, shouting her name. The battle flared again. Dust, light, blood. Vara saw him dive in front of her as Kran raised his cannon. The shot fired, a blinding burst of energy. Eli felt it tear across his chest, knocking him to the ground. Vara screamed his name, her silver eyes blazing with fury. Something inside her snapped. She rose, her revolver glowing white-hot as she charged straight at Kran. The warlord met her blow for blow, sparks flying, energy flashing. But Vara fought like no one Eli had ever seen. Every movement fueled by rage and something else, something human. When the dust settled, Kron stood still for a moment, then fell, smoke rising from a hole in his chest. Farah dropped beside Eli, trembling. He smiled weakly. Told you. I don't run. She pressed her hand to his wound, tears mixing with dust. Don't die on me now, human. The fire from the fallen ships reflected in her eyes like twin suns. The battle was over for now, but both knew the war had only begun. As dawn approached, Farah sat beside him, whispering softly, You saved me again. Eli's voice was faint. Guess that makes us even. She looked at him for a long time, her voice trembling. No, Eli Ward. You made me something my people never could. You made me human. And in that silent, broken dawn, the galaxy shifted, not from war or conquest, but from the quiet bond between a man and an outlaw who dared to stand together. Smoke still hung over the ranch like a ghost that refused to leave. The fires from the battle burned low, crackling in the early dawn. Eli lay half-conscious in the sand, his chest wrapped in blood-soaked bandages. The wound pulsed with pain, but he was alive. Barely. Farah knelt beside him, her cloak torn, her skin covered in ash. Her silver eyes shimmered faintly in the light of the twin suns. She pressed her palm against his chest, whispering words in a language he didn't understand. A soft glow spread from her hand, healing energy, faint and trembling. Stop. You'll drain yourself, Eli muttered weakly. She shook her head. You don't get to die here, human. He gave a small, broken laugh. Didn't plan on it. Around them, the battlefield was quiet except for the wind. The Serath warlord, Kron, lay dead near the barn. His black armor split open, his weapon crushed under his own weight. Farah stared at the body, her expression unreadable. He trained me, she said quietly. Taught me to shoot, to kill, to never hesitate. Eli coughed, forcing a smile. Guess the student finally learned something better. She looked down at him. You shouldn't have stepped in front of that blast. You'd have done the same. Farah didn't answer. Her gaze drifted toward the hills where faint shadows moved in the distance. Small figures gathering, watching. Reinforcements. They're not done, she whispered. His death will bring more. They'll want revenge. Eli tried to sit up but groaned in pain. Then we make this place ready again. We fight until— No, Farah cut him off. You've already given enough. She turned away, tightening her gloves. This isn't your war. He struggled to stand, leaning on a post. It became mine the moment you stepped off that ship. Their eyes met, stubborn, tired, but full of something unspoken. A sharp whistle split the air. A scout drone swooped low, scanning the wreckage. Farah drew her revolver and fired once. The drone exploded in a burst of sparks, its parts raining down into the sand. That'll bring them faster, Eli warned. I know, Farah said. That's why I'm ending it now. She reloaded her revolver slowly, click, spin, lock, the motion smooth, practiced, final. What are you talking about? He asked. She didn't look at him. The Dominion won't stop until they think I'm dead. They're tracking my signal and I can use it. Eli's heart dropped. You're not going out there alone. Yes, I am. He limped toward her, gripping her shoulder. You think I'll let you just walk to your death? She turned to face him. It's not death. It's a distraction. I'll lead them away from here. They'll chase me across the dunes, far from this place. By the time they realize the truth, you'll be gone. Her voice trembled slightly at the end, and that tremor broke him more than any wound. He shook his head. No, we fight together. That was the deal. Farah's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. Then let this be my part of the fight. The suns climbed higher. In the distance, the sound of engines began again. Louder this time. The next fleet was coming. Farah stepped closer, pulling something from her belt, her silver revolver. She pressed it into his hand. Keep this, Eli frowned. What about you? She raised her other weapon, a smaller, old-fashioned sidearm. I only need one. He stared at her, unable to speak. She leaned forward suddenly, pressing her forehead against his. Her voice was soft, trembling. When they ask what happened here, tell them the truth. That one outlaw and one human changed the stars. Before he could reply, she pulled away and ran, fast, silent, like a streak of silver through the burning sand. Within seconds, she was gone over the ridge, a single shadow moving toward the approaching fleet. Eli watched her go, clutching her revolver tightly. His throat ached. He wanted to stop her, to shout her name, but his voice failed. Then the sky erupted. The first ships opened fire, chasing her trail into the horizon. Plasma bolts streaked across the desert like falling stars. He saw her silhouette once, standing on the ridge, her gun raised against an entire army. Then she vanished in the blaze. Hours passed. The ships disappeared one by one, following her signal far away. Silence returned, broken only by the soft crackle of dying fires. Eli sank to his knees, staring at the empty horizon. The revolver felt heavy in his hand, heavier than any weapon he'd ever held. He whispered, "You promised to come back." The wind carried his words away. He stood at last, battered and bleeding, but alive. He looked toward the ruins of his ranch and saw the morning light breaking over the desert. Quiet, endless, waiting. For the first time in his life, Eli Ward felt something shift inside him, a mix of grief and pride. Vara hadn't just saved his life. She'd reminded him what being human truly meant. And though the stars above were fading with daylight, he swore one thing to himself. He would rebuild not just for her, but for the promise they both carried, that somewhere out there, freedom was still worth fighting for. He raised her revolver to the sky, whispered softly, "For you, Vara," and pulled the trigger once, a single shot echoing through the dawn, a farewell to the silver outlaw who made the desert remember her name. Days passed. The fires went out, the smoke thinned, and silence returned to the desert. But Eli Ward didn't rest. He rebuilt his ranch piece by piece, hammer in one hand, pain in the other. His ribs still ached with every breath, yet he kept working. The ranch wasn't just a home anymore. It was a memory, a monument. Every nail he drove was a promise, carved one to her. Vara Trell was gone. Or so the galaxy believed. The Seraph Dominion announced her death, broadcasting it across every channel. "The traitor Vara Trell has been eliminated," their message declared. The Dominion's honor restored. Eli listened once, then turned the radio off. "You don't kill someone like her," he muttered. "You just make her angry." He walked to the edge of the fields one morning where the sand met the horizon. There he planted something new, a small metal pole topped with her insignia, the mark of the outlaw. The wind caught it and the flag rippled beneath the sun. "She saved me," he whispered, voice low. "Now this place belongs to both of us." Weeks turned into months. Traders began to return to the valley, surprised to find the human rancher still alive and thriving. They asked about the fire scars on his land, the blackened soil, the strange silver bullet holes in the walls. Eli just smiled and said, "Storm trouble." But the rumors started anyway. Some said a ghost protected the Ward Ranch. Others swore they saw a shadow with glowing eyes riding across the dunes at night, hunting anything that carried the Serath crest. Eli didn't correct them. He knew the truth. One evening, as the sun set and the air turned gold, he sat on the porch with his rifle across his lap. The ranch was quiet again, too quiet. The cattle had settled, the wind had died. Only the faint hum of the power lines filled the air. Then he heard it, a soft metallic click, a sound he'd know anywhere. He turned slowly. From the shadows near the barn, a figure stepped out, tall, cloaked, silver eyes glowing under the brim of a familiar hat. His breath caught in his throat. "Vara," he whispered. She stood there, alive, though changed. Her cloak was scorched, her armor battered. A faint scar crossed her cheek, glowing faint blue, but her eyes, those same fierce, beautiful eyes, still burned with life. "You're real," he said, voice trembling. "I told you I'd come back," she replied softly. "Took me longer than I hoped." Eli walked toward her slowly, afraid she might vanish like smoke. "How?" "I led them off-world," she said. "Let them think I died in the blast. Then I stole one of their ships and came back." Her lips curved slightly. "Couldn't let you have all the fun fixing fences without me." He laughed, a broken, relieved sound. "You never did like leaving a job unfinished." She stepped closer, pulling a small metal box from her cloak. Inside was a single, shining bullet, unlike any human design. "My last round," she said, "for when the Dominion comes again." Eli took it carefully, the metal warm in his palm. "We'll save it for something big. Or someone stupid," she added with a grin. They stood together on the porch, watching the twin suns sink below the desert. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of rain. For a moment everything was still, as if the world itself paused to listen. "You could have left," Eli said quietly. "Started over on another planet. Why come back here?" Vara looked at him, her voice soft but firm. Because this is where I became free. And because, she hesitated, searching for the words. You made me something my people never allowed me to be. He tilted his head. And what's that? She met his gaze. Yours, Eli's heart stumbled. He didn't speak, he just reached out, taking her hand in his rough, calloused one. Her fingers tightened around his. The stars began to rise, and the desert glowed faint blue under the moons. Far in the distance, a faint rumble of engines echoed. New ships entering orbit, scouts from the Dominion, or maybe something worse. Vara heard it too. She didn't flinch. Let them come, she said quietly. They'll find a gunslinger and a rancher waiting. Eli smirked. Guess that makes us the new law around here. She smiled, sliding her revolver back into its holster. Then let's make sure they remember it. They stood side by side as the night swallowed the desert, two silhouettes against the stars, a human who refused to break and an alien who refused to run. Together they had changed each other, changed the story the galaxy would tell. And somewhere, whispered through space like a legend reborn, travelers spoke of the gunslinger's promise, the tale of a silver-eyed outlaw and a stubborn human rancher who defied empires, outlived death, and built a world where love became the strongest weapon of all. As the wind carried the star's reflection across the sand, Eli whispered the words she once told him, the ones he'd never forgotten. He made me human, and this time, she answered softly beside him, her voice steady as dawn, and he made me believe again.